Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and check this out. Hi.
Hi, I'm good and you?
Awesome. I'm super excited to share this with everyone. I have a new Automixer out that is capable of mixing video. What do you think about it?
Wow, awesome. But I think you're forgetting of walking our cat.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time into these audio effects. I am sure I should have been doing other things in the
Yeah,
house.
it misses pooping in sand.
That is true. But you see, I did no editing on this video. I just put in the Automixer and it's switching between the two different cameras and it's also mixing the two different microphones all by itself.
Let's see how it does it.
Oh, it will be awesome, I'm sure. Thanks for helping me demonstrate it. Thanks.
Oh, welcome.
So, yeah, it is true. You heard me from the past. And the Automixer is capable of mixing different microphones. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, there is another video on this channel in which I show you my modified version of the Automixer, but it's mixing the multiple microphones that are open in the same room. And you should check that video before continuing with this one if you have no idea what this is about. But now the Automixer has support for auto mixing video or auto editing video as well. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video. It's a new feature in the Automixer. And the first thing you want to do is, if you have not installed the Automixer in the past, then you should definitely check the instructions in the description of this video. It's very simple. If you're already using REAPER and Repack, all you have to do is come here to Repack and import a repository. And if you already have the Automixer, but you don't have this new version, then you should just synchronize packages and you will get a new version. So with that out of the way, now that you know how to get it, I will show you how to install this mixer into the project, how to use it, how to set up the project to use the Automixer with video. And I will also show you some tricks to get the best results with the Automixer. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing you will note is when you drop in an Automixer, just the regular Automixer plugin into a project, it has changed slightly. Now it's also indicating which track would be selected if you have video enabled, if you're using the Automixer with video. It just boils down to which track is the loudest for some period of time. So when editing video, we don't want to switch back and forth between tracks as fast as we would change between audio tracks, because just changing the image so fast would be jarring. But yeah, you want this to be slightly slower, but that's the idea. The track that is in red is the track that you would see if this were a video project. And the Automixer with just audio is going to continue working as it was, but now you have this additional support for video. And when I'm going to mute the project so we don't hear everything that is going on. I don't want to listen to this right now, but that is this project is the rendered video you just watched. And it's also available for download. If you want to see how the project is set up and test it for yourself, then you can also download this project. But anyway, so here is that project. And when I hit play on some part that has some alternation, some alternation of voices, you will see the red going from 1 to 2 and back. And if you're not using video, you can just ignore this. But if you are using video, now you know which track would be selected by the Automixer at that point. And as you can see, that translates to which track is the loudest. And that's the only change in the audio part of the Automixer. It's just a change in the visuals. Now you have that indication of the video track. But to set up the Automixer with video, you also have to set up a video processor. And that's the part that I'm going to show now. There are two different ways of doing this, and they are equivalent in some ways. So I'll first show you how to set this on a track that is... So here you have some tracks with video and some tracks with audio. I was recording the audio with a separate recorder, and that's one way to record things. You have multiple cameras with multiple people, and you have multiple microphones for each person, and they are all being recorded separately, and you sync everything up in post. That's what most people do, and I'm going to show this first. But you should know that the Automixer is going to work with other setups as well. If you have the camera and the audio being recorded together in the same file, that will also work just fine. Anyway, here I have 2 tracks that are the camera tracks, and they have only the video, no audio. So I set up the Automixer the same way that I set it up on the other video on this channel. The audio Automixer is still the same. You still have to do that routing of multiple channels, going to a parent that is multi-channel. So in this case, it has 4 channels, 2 stereo children. And then I have separately the 2 video tracks that are also on a folder. And on this parent, I'm going to remove this and do it again to show you. So what I did here is I unselected all items so that I can hold Command or probably Control if you're on a PC, and I dragged my cursor, and now I clicked and drag. And now I have this item that is an empty item. It's a MIDI item that has no MIDI data, so it's just a dummy item, to which I can go to Item Properties and take Effects and add a video processor. Now the code for this video processor is available first in the repository, in the Repack repository. There is a link to the effects chain. So if you are already comfortable with effect chains and you want to use that, then there is an effect chain that you can just drop in place here. There is a link for it right here. Otherwise, if you're like me, you can also come here to the source for the Automixer and just copy and paste this part. It's commented out because it's actually a video processor. So that's how I like to do it. So you just copy and paste this code here and then save this video processor and you're good to go. So let's come back here to the video preview and hit play. And of course, I disabled the audio, but you can see that it's switching back and forth between the tracks. And of course, if I take out this item, if I disable this, then it's no longer switching to the other track as it should, because now the other person is speaking. So when I put it back, you can see it switching back and forth between the cameras. So that's all you have to do. You create this dummy item and you put the Automixer video processor on it. Alternatively, if you don't like the idea of having this dummy item, you can also have the effect on the track. So you have a parent track and you have the effect, the video processor on the track. And I just dragged this effect here from the item to the track, and I can delete the item. That works as well. And you can see the alternation of the cameras, all the same. It's just a matter of preference if you like to have a dummy item or an effect on a track. Now, what if you have both audio and video on the same item, because the audio and the video were recorded in the same file? Now, in this case, what you want to do is just set up both the audio Automixer and this Automixer video editor video processor right one next to the other, because effectively you would have just these tracks. You would not have these ones. So your project here, these items would have video as well. So this Automixer is doing the audio part and this is doing the video part. And you have to set up both, because in Reaper by design, an effect cannot be both audio and video at the same time. So you have to set up both of these. It works just the same. This is going to be selecting the items from the tracks below according to the audio, according to which one is the loudest. So that's a way to set up if you have a recording of both video and audio on the same file. Now I want to share a couple tricks that you can use to get the best results out of this Automixer video editor. The first is for a complete workflow. If you get footage and you get audio and you want to get some great results as fast as possible, I recommend that you watch the other video on this channel in which I show you how to truncate silence. I have a custom action that helps you truncate silence, and that is not only gating the silence. That's not only taking moments of silence and removing them like this. It's not just doing that. It's actually taking the moments of silence when no one's speaking and truncating that part of the audio. So it's taking all those moments and taking them out so that you have fast responses and you don't have dead air. So that's the first thing you do with the footage. You just truncate the silence. You take out all the moments of silence, and then you put in the Automixer, and you put in the Automixer with a video editor. And of course, you do any kind of audio processing that you want with the microphones, some form of EQ and compression, and you have some very good start. You may want to do some manual tweaks, but for some kind of podcast with a video part, with a video component for YouTube, or if you have an interview, a roundtable, that is a very good start. You have something that is pretty polished with just automated tools. So that's a good workflow to get started. But there may be cases in which there is someone who is reacting to something that is being said, but that person is not saying anything, so you don't have that, the Automixer will not pick that up. And you want to come in manually and change what the Automixer is doing just for that moment, just for the video processor to get that shot of the person reacting. Or you may consider that the Automixer is maybe not switching to that person fast enough in one place, and you want to change that one cut. Well, it's easy to do that because what is happening here is that the Automixer is just selecting a channel, but you can always come in here. For instance, let's say in this part in which I am speaking, and I'm going to disable the audio again because I closed the project and opened it again, but I don't want to hear the audio. So in this part, I am speaking, but let's say that I want to cut to the other person real quick just to see her reaction and then back to me. The Automixer is not going to do that because the person is silent. But what I can do is just come here and split and change the audio processor here so that it's not just taking the input from the Automixer. It's not selecting the track based on the Automixer, but I can select manually. So if I want to, then I am on track 1, the other person is on track 2. So if I want to cut to that person's track, I just use that track number -1. So if I want to cut to this track, I would use the number 0, but because I want to change to this track, I'm going to use the number 1. And that is it. I saved here, and then I see the other person. So now I am overriding what the Automixer would do. I can show you the interface for the Automixer alongside with the video, and you will see that the Automixer would like to show camera 1, but it's actually going to switch to camera 2. See? Camera 1, but it's actually showing camera 2. So you are using the Automixer as a starting point, but you're always free to come in and do any kind of edit that you want. Either selecting a different camera, applying different transitions and effects, anything that you can do with an audio processor in Reaper, you can still do using the Automixer. It's just another tool that you have in your toolbox. And if you're using the dummy item with the Automixer, then that's how you do this. If instead you are using a track, the effect is on a track and you don't have dummy items like that, then you don't want this item to be here because that won't take effect. So here you can see that it's still in camera 1. It's not switching. So what you do instead is you create another track on top of this one. You put the item there. So now you have the tracks with video, their parent, and then another track with, I would say, video editing adjustments. And then in this track, you want to change the video processor because now we are not talking about the track that is 2 below. The number 1 here represents 2 tracks below. So that would be, again, camera 1. And we want to switch to camera 2. So in that case, I would change this to the number 2. And then let's preview this and see how it looks. Of course, you have to save the video processor, and I forgot to do that. So when I saved it, now you can see that it's switching to camera 2, coming back to camera 1 with this adjustment layer here. But what if you think that the Automixer is consistently getting something wrong? Can you change the way the Automixer for video is working? And yes, you can. These settings are hidden because you most probably don't want to change them, but they are available for experts. And if you really want to dig in and tweak how things work, you can. They are hidden parameters. So what you have to do is come here to param and look in this effects parameter list. And for instance, one way to do this would be to have a track envelope, but I actually want to show in track controls these hidden parameters. There are 2 hidden parameters, and I will enable them so we can look at them and see what they do. So 2 different parameters. The first is, it has to do with the difference in audio between the tracks. So here, for instance, I am paused. I don't have any audio coming into the effect. So all the tracks are level. They are all at the same gain. But there are moments of silence during conversation when all the mics are open. There are moments of silence, and these bars will come close to one another. They might not be exactly the same, but they will come close to one another. Let's see if I can find an example somewhere in here. So we just saw this right after this part, after I say something here. Right there, you can see that they are both at the same level. And just because there is a moment of silence, it doesn't mean necessarily that you want to switch to a different camera. So what this is doing is saying how much difference between tracks should register for a camera change, which by default is minus 20 dB. So the difference between the tracks needs to be at least minus 20 dB in order for it to register as something that would change a track. I guess this somehow translates to the concept of hysteresis or hysteresis. I don't know how to say that. And there are some effects like gates that have this parameter, and I think it's related somehow, but I don't fully understand hysteresis. People have tried to explain it to me in the past, and I didn't fully understand how it works, but I think this is related to that. So it's some leeway in the change of the tracks. And that is, of course, always relative to whatever track you have enabled. So in this case, track 1 would need to be at least minus 20 dB louder than track 2 in order for it to register and actually switch to track 1. And the other parameter that you can change is the amount of time that a track needs to be louder than the current track for it to switch. So I need to wait at least 300 milliseconds by default, and you can change this if you want. At least this amount of time before it actually switches to a different camera. And that is because you don't want the camera switches to be too often, because that is just weird. Here, I will show you. If you take this number and you lower it, then you will see the camera switch a lot more in places that might not even make sense. So, for instance, if I have this very low, did you see that? We saw just a glitch. It switched to a different camera and then back in a matter of, I guess, 10 milliseconds or something. 1 frame or 2, it went to a different camera. Yeah, I couldn't see that again. But yeah, if you see that you have changes that are too sudden, then you may want to increase this value. And by default, it will be 350 milliseconds. On the other hand, if you think that the switches to a different camera are too fast, then maybe you want to increase this number. And that is in case you want to simulate something that a real human video editors sometimes do. They switch to a different camera slightly after the person has started speaking, and that is on purpose because it simulates how you would react if you were watching 2 people speak, and you're watching person number 1, and then person number 2 starts talking, and then you switch your gaze to that person. So you're not necessarily always following whoever is speaking super, super fast. So if you want to simulate that, you can increase this number a lot, and then the Automixer will wait a lot longer before doing a switch. And of course, the switches will be less often as well. So if someone is just agreeing, maybe if someone just says, then the camera will not necessarily switch to that person. Not at least if the is faster than this threshold, this not really a threshold, but some interval. So now let's see how that works. Yeah, you can see that it takes a while for the camera switches to happen here. When I start speaking, it takes a long while, probably longer than you would want in a real edit. And to fine-tune this value, I learned that the best way to do it is to just have a short section of back and forth that is representative of the kind of edits that you would want to do, and then render the project and tweak the value and render the project again. And that's because when you're previewing things in REAPER, REAPER has to switch to a different to a different video stream. And at least on my machine, which isn't the fastest, that takes some lag. It takes just a tiny bit of time. And that is enough to throw off your intuition about how fast the edits are. And that lag, it threw me off. So the way I found the way I tweaked this value to find the default of 350 milliseconds was to render the project several times with different values until I found one that I thought would work for not only for this example, but also for other footage that I had. And that's how you tweak this value. Okay, so this next trick has to do with the rendering of the final project. And the problem is, when you are working on the project and you are switching between different cameras and you're editing and you're taking things out, you may end up in a place where person 2 is speaking. Place like this. And now suppose that you want to render the project. You are in this state, you are done editing, and you're in this state and you want to render the project. This is what happens. You come here to the beginning, and I'm not going to render the project. Actually, I'm just going to hit play, which is what project rendering would do. Note how the camera, and I am the first person speaking on this video, okay? So you should note here that microphone 1 is the first who's speaking. Now, note when I hit play, note how it starts with this camera and then it switches to me. And then it switches back and forth following the audio. But the first cut is wrong because it starts in the wrong camera. And I guess you can see that because I still have that outrageous value. So I'll bring it back to the 350 milliseconds that I had to begin with. And that is the default. Okay, let's try that again. Yeah, REAPER glitched a little because my machine isn't that fast, but you saw how it started with the wrong camera. And if you were to render the project, it would render that way, which is incorrect. So what you want to do is make sure that you have the camera that you want to show first. So the person who is speaking first, you want to have that as the current camera when you start rendering. So here, for instance, the current camera is camera number 2, not what I want. So there are different ways of doing this. One way is to just come here to a part of the project where microphone 1 is speaking, and I just play it for a tiny bit. And then when I visit that again, then video track is track number 1. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is closing the project and reopening it, because by default, the Automixer plugin will be showing track number 1. And of course, what you also want to do is to have the microphones and the videos ordered such that the first microphone, the first active microphone, is also the first track, like this. And this way, when you render the beginning of the video will be just right. And unfortunately, this is a limitation of how the Automixer fundamentally works, and there is no good workaround for this. There is no good way for me as the developer to solve this for you, because the Automixer has to listen to some portion of the audio before it can switch to the right camera. So if you begin the project with the wrong camera, there is no time for the Automixer to jump in and fix that for you. So just make sure before rendering that you either close and reopen the project, make sure the tracks are in the right order such that the first track who is active is also the first track in the file like this, visually in the file like so. Okay, one last trick before I leave you, and that is in the Automixer video processor, you can see that I'm using this variable. And this variable is available if you know how to work with video processors and you know how to write code, then this variable is available to you. It is set by the audio portion of the Automixer, and as long as you have this comment in your video processor, then you will have access to this variable. And this variable is the number of the current track, 0 indexed. So if the first track here is active, the first microphone is active, this number will be 0. And if the second microphone is active, this number will be a 1, and so on. And you can do anything you want with this. The default video processor that I'm showing you here is going to do the simple thing of switching to that camera, cutting to that camera. But you could do anything you wanted with the video processor. So maybe you have multiple cameras on the screen at the same time, and then you want to use this number to draw an overlay on the camera which is active, and that looks something like what you would see on a video call maybe, and you want to simulate that in post-production. Sure, that's one thing you can do. Anything you want. You can show the number of the current active track, whatever. It's up to your imagination. The number is there for you to do whatever you want with it. So that's for you to get creative. Now, finally, before I leave you, I want to thank the person who gave the idea of doing this on a comment on the video for the original Automixer, or at least for my original modification of the Automixer. So Tyler gave this suggestion. I was also thinking about this. I thought it would be fun to do, and I wanted to do this. And he gave the idea, and I developed it. So thank you for suggesting this. And that's all I have for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you have fun auto mixing and auto editing your projects. I hope this saves you a lot of time. If you have something like a podcast with video, a roundtable, any kind of thing that has multiple microphones, multiple people speaking, or maybe you're just, I don't know, putting on YouTube some kind of recording of a Zoom call, and Zoom does that automatically, changes cameras, but then you could ask everyone to record locally on their side as well. And then you can simulate what Zoom is doing, but on higher quality, because there is no compression of the video going over the wire, because everyone is recording locally and sending you the footage and you are syncing everything up. So there are a lot of possibilities here. This is just a good start, and you can also edit by hand, so you're not locking into the Automixer editor. You can do whatever you want. I'm really excited with this. I hope you are too. Thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, then you definitely should subscribe to this channel, because I am recording a video series on JS effects, and I'm doing coding live, showing you everything you need to know about audio processing, as I am learning audio processing as well. I have videos like this one showing you things that I developed for REAPER, new processor plugins and audio effects and custom actions that make my work faster and should make your work faster as well. And I have all sorts of other videos on programming and other nice things all around. So thank you very much for watching, and I see you on the next one. Bye.